So I want to share with you a topic that I have seen in a few Christians, like an issue. And in my new book entitled Love One Another, which won't be out for a few years, but in the book I speak about just how, according to James, I believe it's chapter 3, that if you see your brother and sister in need, don't say to them, be well, be warm, stuff like that, when you have the means to help them. And I've seen that a lot with, a few Christians, that instead of helping them, they have this preconceived judgment against them, whatever it may be. I mean, what is the reason why you would say to somebody, God will take care of you, God will provide, when really you have the means to help them? And it says something in Scripture about, don't say to your brother or sister that, don't withhold good from those who deserve it. And it also says that when you have the means to help them now. And I don't know where it says that in Scripture, but I had read that. And I made sure that I put that in the book. So that is an echo, years down the road to what James had spoke about. When you have the means to help somebody, he's speaking about faith and works. Well, you can say to somebody, having all the faith in the world, believing that God will take care of them. But if they're hungry or they're thirsty or they need something and you have the means to get them something, why not do it? You can easily say to somebody, God will provide, when you could be that blessing to help them. And, I've seen that in my faith walk, and in the book, I speak about what are the reasons why somebody would not help another. And it could be preconceived judgments. Maybe you think this person isn't financially successful and walking as you think they should walk. So you won't help them because you feel you have to be their judge. Or another reason why you won't help somebody is maybe you're afraid, that you won't have enough for yourself. And, God, in many times in my life, had provided, when I gave him all that I had. Before I knew him as my source, I would save, my tithe money for church. But then it would get to the point where I needed money for food. So I ended up using the tithe money, and I would feel bad each time I did that. And when I came to know God as my source, he told me, when a missionary came to church, he said, put whatever you have in there. And all I had was like $20, and I needed that for gas, to get to where I needed to go and to get to church. And God many times before had provided for me. And my first thought was like, okay, well, I'm not going to have money for gas. But then I remembered that God came through so many times, so I put that 20 in. And later on, I received an email from a brother, and he said, I meant to talk to you after church, and, God has led me to fill up your gas tank. Out of nowhere. I didn't let no one know about my situation. I didn't let him know. I didn't speak to him about it. And so later on, in the week, he filled my gas tank, and I was able to, get where I needed to go. And so whatever little I had, God gave me so much more than what I put in. And to fill my gas tank, I think at that time was like around $40. So God gave me way more than what I put in the offering plate. So a lot of people could be afraid of giving because they feel like they're not going to have enough. But what God had showed me, in that instance, is that what if we put everything that we have in? God will bless us more, like what he did with the widow with 2 mites. She put all that she had in there, but I'm sure God blessed her abundantly because she gave more than everyone had. All these people put, the money in from their wealth. Well, she didn't have wealth, but she gave everything that she had out of her poverty. And to God, that's everything. God was able to pour out abundantly to her more than what she could have asked or thought. So it doesn't matter if you feel like you're not going to have enough in the week. It takes a step of faith to trust God. Give him what you have and watch what he can do. So, I was speaking on, it could be preconceived judgments that somebody won't give, where they're not lining up according to what they think the financially successful. Another reason, like I said, was fear. And another one could be, maybe it's something that you saw someone else walk in. Well, you heard them say, well, God will bless you through somebody else. Or maybe it's a teaching they heard somebody speak in which, they think to themselves, well, God, somebody else can bless them. Or they'll say, I don't feel led into helping you. And so they use that as an excuse and they go along with that when they have the means to help you and they don't do it. So what is the reasons why for that? If it's a teaching. But in the heart, God knows the heart. God knows the intentions. God knows the motives. So he knows why you're not giving at that moment. Whatever it may be. So at that moment, you have the choice. You can either do so in faith, knowing God will bless you, or, in judgment, according to the world. God sees all that. So I don't know what teaching somebody may hear in order for them to say, I don't feel led in to help you. Who cares if you don't feel led? Where do they get this idea or this concept about feeling led to do something? If your brother is in need, you shouldn't have to feel led. Their need should move you into helping them. You see somebody that's on the street carrying a sign, I'm hungry. Well, why don't you go and get something for them to eat? God gave you the means to help somebody else. And you don't do that, you're what Jesus said, that when you go to the prison, you're visiting me. When you give to those in need, you're giving to me. So I don't know what church teachers come up with that, thinking that, you got to feel led in order to help somebody. Well, anybody can use that as an excuse not to help somebody. So, I don't know where they get this idea from, but, if you have the means to help somebody, then God is giving you, the opportunity of you being blessed in return for blessing them. So these are the things that I wanted to speak about. And, I've had that plenty of times in my life where somebody said that exact thing to me where I don't feel led into helping you. Like for one time I needed like bread and milk, and I don't remember what happened at the time, but there was this older woman in which I was doing, community service hours for her, in her ministry. And so, I don't know what got on the topic of my need and all that, where maybe I've said, I'm walking in faith, for bread and milk. And so this mother in the faith ends up saying that I don't feel led into helping you. I'm like, I wasn't asking you, So I guess a brother overheard that, what I was saying, in which, I was doing ministry. He was doing ministry too, helping her out. So he overheard, I guess, me speaking, and God blessed him, and he gave me, $20. And that was more than what I expected. And so, when you're open and available into blessing somebody, God can bless you in return. But it's what is keeping you from blessing your brother and sister. Are there any judgments? Are there any teachings that you heard? Well, you heard me give examples of how God has blessed me by giving everything that I had. So I would say, use that and remember that in the future. When you have the means to help somebody, you could be their only blessing, and, it's not about the motive of, oh God, I'm going to wait and see what you can do. No, just give to somebody and, be that blessing in their life. I mean, who knows what God can do behind the scenes? He's done so much for me behind the scenes that, had amazed me. So I'm going to end it here. Thank you for taking the time to watch.